It is currently the 8th of October 2014. What you are looking at here is the satellite imagery of Typhoon Vongfong as it rapidly intensified during the overnight hours into the early morning hours here on Wednesday. And this storm system definitely by far the strongest typhoon since Typhoon Haiyan. Remember that storm when it hit the Philippines last year. Good news, this is peaking at its intensity well over the open ocean, but you could just take a look at the satellite imagery and how that circular motion just wrapping around this storm system has that classic buzzsaw shape, as well as that clear defined eye, and then moisture inflow coming in from the south and from the north, plus you have very sufficient outflow aloft pushing off towards the northeast. Really, that's actually somewhat due to Vongfong way towards the northeast, also playing a role in the forecast of this storm system, because you can see Vongfong way over here. You have the leading edge of a high pressure and cooler air spilling in across the Pacific, and the tail end of that is hooked up with our typhoon, and that is going to pull it off here towards the north as we go ahead through the next 24 hours. Let's take a look at the official forecast first from the Japan Meteorological Agency. Typhoon Vongfong with winds of 213 gusting to 306 kilometers per hour. As you can see with our forecast here, though, in this little graphic we have showing at the intensity of this and that explosive intensification during the morning hours, it is expected to level out, and I do think we are past the peak intensity here, because once this moves towards the north, it's going to move away from this extremely favorable environment for intensification to a little bit less favorable. But as you see over the next 72 hours, let's look ahead here. Once this approaches the Daito Islands, it still is a substantial typhoon with winds of 176 gusting to 250 per hour. This is from the Joint Typhoon Warning Center. Their track a little bit farther towards the west. I'll get to the reason why both of these tracks are slightly different. They have winds of 287 gusting to 352 kilometers per hour. I want to put this in perspective for you. The bullet trains, the Shinkansen in Japan, known for how quickly and how crazy fast they are, they travel at a max speed of 320 kilometers per hour. The max wind gust in this storm system, if you were a sailor lost out to sea, 352. So just absolutely intense. And as we look ahead through the forecast, this is also expected to weaken by them and pretty much steadily weakening, while they expect still a slight intensification, but I really don't see that happening. And then a steady weakening until this approaches the southern islands of Japan and still has winds gusting at about 232. All that's going on. We have our storm system out to sea here, but we're also seeing gusty winds already pushing on shore across the southern Japanese islands. Sustained tropical storm strength winds have been seen in some areas here today, and plus that river of moisture bringing the rainfall across the Philippines. I do want to mention that because some areas in Visayas actually seeing school closures today. You look ahead through the next 24 to 48, and this is showing you 72-hour forecast. That river of moisture, I like to call it that because it really feels like that. You just have that persistent westerly flow is really going to add up the precipitation, and some areas of western Visayas over through Palawan could see an additional 300 millimeters of rain. Most of this is going to stay south of Manila, but even over towards Cebu and specifically southern Luzon and northern Visayas, you are those areas that are going to be getting hit hardest with this storm system as we go ahead through the next several days. So even being farther towards the west, looking at a significant impact from this. But let's get into the modeled analysis here, and I want to break down what exactly is happening. So we have what's left of Vongfong, as I mentioned, way off there towards the northeast, and it's kind of hooking our storm towards the north. Another thing is we have a high pressure ridge over China, and we have the Westpac high off here towards the east. So in the next several hours, we're starting to see a churn towards the north in between this weakness and the high pressure ridges. The thing is that if we look a little bit farther here towards the north, what we have occurring coming in from the west is a high pressure ridge in the jet stream. This is a migratory high coming through, moving across eastern China and pushing over Japan. And it's going to bring some beautiful weather across these areas. The thing is, though, this acts like a roadblock. So you have a high pressure over here towards the west into China, high pressure over Japan, and the subtropical high. This just keeps our storm system hooked in here, and it really doesn't know where to go. Most models are kind of wavering on exactly where this is going to be heading, at least at this time in the long-range forecast. Is it going to move west around this migratory high, or is it going to try to squeeze around there towards the east? And actually, let's look at the model ensemble, or at least the consensus here from several computer models. Pretty sure this can explain to you what we're seeing with the model. Some of them taking it towards the west around that high, and some of them pushing back there towards the east. But the consensus is they're just all over the place. Now, if you notice with the Japan Meteorological Agency and the Joint Typhoon Warning Center, they basically are running it in the middle of this hot mess here, off towards the north, towards Kyushu. Now let's look at basically the right and the left here. First, I'll show you the ECMWF and the scenario that could take place most favorable for the southern Japanese island, that it tracks basically due north, working its way around the eastern periphery of that high pressure ridge. See the 72-hour forecast here and basically extending out through the 84-hour. Really the highest winds stay offshore. You can see some tropical storm strength winds. The Amami Islands definitely would get hit, and eventually this could make its way over towards Kyushu. I know we have a lot of people watching from the Sasebo area. You definitely could be hit by this, and eventually it would roll off towards the northeast, impacting Tokyo in the extreme long range. We're talking about Monday into Tuesday when it would impact central portions of Japan. But this is a forecast I really want to concentrate on for the short term, because in 72 hours it would be just towards the east of Okinawa. Now let's say that high pressure ridge kind of moved faster and our storm system leaned a little bit farther towards the west. Before I show you this is a GFS model forecast. It is a model forecast, and models tend to be wrong sometimes, but they're really the things we're looking at. And the reason why I mention that, because if you are in Okinawa or Naha specifically, you may have a heart attack after seeing this. It brings it directly south of Naha, really right across the airport there, right front quadrant in that highly populated area. This would be worst case scenario way the American model is showing for the southern Japanese islands, and definitely if this does occur, I'll try to even get out there myself and document this, because it's definitely going to be a very serious situation if this particular event did unfold. As I mentioned before, this is this model, and I just showed you the ECMWF. It keeps it farther there towards the east. Same time frame, there's the ECMWF, and then we'll go back to the GFS during your evening hours here on Saturday. So a few things taking place here. We're definitely going to keep you updated. This is not the only model. The Finmach NavGem model, the United States Navy model, basically keeps it smack right in the middle of that, but it still brings those 50 knot plus winds across the southern Japanese islands. So if you are in Okinawa, don't be surprised if you start hearing those T-core numbers starting to throw out here in the very near future. I think the big thing they haven't been done yet is because the Joint Typhoon Warning Center is keeping it farther towards the east. And here, that's the United States military's agency, but I expect them to pull it back towards the west. We have more updates coming from them in the next several hours, and they've already been wavering towards the west. We'll see, though. Right now, the cone of air is absolutely massive, and that's the thing you want to look at when you're looking at this and you're trying to make some planning purposes. Look at that. Huge area cover. So we will keep you updated. Check the Facebook page, and as always, stay safe out there.